What's up, everybody? This is your girl, Saint Win. I may be your friend, I may be your foe. I don't know, but all I know is that I'm very excited to come at you with some consistency, baby. I have another guest for you. Her name is Yamana, and she is a friend from that I've known of her. I've known her since college, but I don't think we really started running together until we realized we had some great mutual friends together. And so I think that's when we started like, oh, you cool. So I'm gonna get her to just introduce herself and we're just gonna have a good old conversation. Go ahead, girl.
Hello, everybody. As Santa said, I'm Yamana, going by Coach Yamz. I am a life coach, mindset healing coach specifically, and I'm excited to have this conversation.
Yes, I love that. So I know this is a new, so as we were just talking off the what y'all are not privy to hear. We got that private conversation.
Yeah.
She was telling me that this is her first podcast where she is introducing herself as Coach Yam. Is it Yams or Yam?
Yams.
Yams with the plural. Okay, we got to have the yams. There's no yams. So Coach Yam, so I'm really excited to talk to you about this new venture and what you had to do just to kind of like get out your comfort zones, because I'm assuming had to get out a lot of comfort zones to start this new venture of yours, right?
I'm still fighting through them.
They're never going to be going completely away because this one is for comfort. So can you just tell me a little bit of like, because just what you normally do and what got you into the mindset healing coaching?
So I have been in corporate America my entire adult life. I am currently an accountant full time. I still have a full time job. And I've been doing that for 8 years. That's what I went to college for. I enjoy it enough. I don't hate going to work. I'm okay with showing up, but it doesn't light me up the way that this new venture is the direction it's taking me in. Last year, well, for years, I've been going to therapy, but therapy when you're focused on things outside is different than therapy when you're focused on things that are going on the inside. And so it took me a while to get to the point to where I was ready to deep dive within myself. And then with the pandemic, and then with having just past traumas and things that I've never really addressed were problematic for me, I took the time to deal with that stuff, ugly parts and all, and get through to the other side. And I feel great. And I said, oh my God, I got to tell people how to do this.
Yes, and we need it. Like I'm that's why as soon as I saw you put it on Facebook, I was like, so how can I sign up? What are you offering? Can I get a sound bath? And I know you don't do sound baths. I just know you did you have the sound bowls. I was like, so what can I do? Because I want to get into the more healing aspects of spirituality, but I am weary of just people I don't know. Yeah. And so when you say that you're going to be a spiritual coach, I was like, yeah, I know her. I know that, I don't know your full story, but I know that whatever you had to do to get through it, I want to get through it too.
Yes. Yes.
Well, that's amazing. So tell me a little bit more, like what did it take for you to become a coach? Like what does it entail for you?
So there are different ways of going about becoming a coach. There's all kinds of labels that you can put on it. But for me, it was deciding if coaching is what really fit for what I wanted to do, because I happen to like to learn and know all kinds of random things. And so I am the plug, if you will. People know that I know things. And so I want to be able to give resources like that to people, in addition to there being some guidance along the way. And life coach just naturally felt like a good choice. And then so from there, I did webinars and boot camps and all kinds of the free things that you can find to get into to learn more about what that looks like, how to that up and running, what the logistics of the behind the scenes of it all looks like. It is a lot. And it can be overwhelming at times, but I have been bold enough towards the end of the year, last year, and into this year, of being willing to invest in myself, to stop spinning my wheels and my precious time trying to recreate when there's people out here that are doing what I want to do.
Right.
And so I'm currently in a boot camp. Actually, it's a 3-month program, and it's helping lay the foundations of the things. Like, I've got my program outlined, and I'm working on the networking aspects. One thing on there being podcasts. So I was like, ooh, perfect timing. And so just implementing the things that make the most sense with where I'm at now, and being consistent and trusting that this will give back what I want it to, because I'm in it just for the sake of making people's lives better. So it has to work.
Right. Because, like, I know just you want it to be successful, but you got to figure out what your definition of success is. And so your definition of success was just helping people just be happier, because, like, as you mentioned, like, traumas, dealing with past traumas, present traumas, it's just hard. Like, and having somebody with you is not a bad thing, because I feel like we get caught up. I don't know if it's the Americanization of independence, but we get caught up in thinking, oh, I gotta do this by myself.
Yeah. Well, America, Western culture is very individualistic.
Yeah.
We've been conditioned to consider ourselves, and mainly just ourselves. And other parts of the world, they are very much community and connected. And the more that I've done this work, and I've leaned on friends and allowed myself to receive love like I haven't before, it's a game changer. Having community is fucking gold.
Yes, yes. And, like, when you talked about our group chat, I was like, yeah, I definitely love our group chat because it's supportive. Like, we don't go in, but, like, when we need some type of help or communication or community, we kind of show up, and I really appreciate that, just from supporting our business ventures, or just supporting each other, or just having a random laugh.
Absolutely.
That's responsive. It's a difference. It feels good.
Yes. Safe, healthy community.
Yes, and it's all, like, of Black women. We're all educated, and we all have, like, I feel like if we all were to get together in our group chat, we'd probably figure out how to run this world.
Let me tell you something. The world would be run thrice over.
Right. We would have had everything fixed, figured, and done. Like, I don't understand why they just don't make us all present. Because, like, we were speaking about, because I was asking your, thoughts on, like, pop, just having a conversation with you about pop culture things. But the one thing I know we both know about is the is it Ketanji? I think it's Ketanji, Judge Ketanji hearing, and how we were all just like, how they're treating her, but also how you're seeing history unfold in our eyes of a Black woman on the Supreme Court, in the highest court of the law. And for us to be, like, a group of, like, Black women, I'm just like, damn, that's kind of dope.
Yeah. And it also is like, hey, it doesn't matter how high you aspire, there's still going to be people that are trying to step on.
It's like a sobering reality, because you're like, I can go as high as the Supreme Court or the president or vice president of the United States, but people will still try to bring you down to reality.
Absolutely.
That is just wild. Well, let's kind of go back. I know you talked about, like, because it was 2020 or 2021, or probably all of it. Like, what was some of the catalysts that just kind of, like, brought you into this level of healing? Because I know we all had, I feel like everybody in 2020 had something going on. So what was some of yours, things that just pushed you forward and got you into this point where, I'm finna start coaching people and getting this shit together? And you can cuss too.
Oh, girl, don't you worry. I can't help it.
Yes, me too, girl. I be dropping the bombs. I'm so glad. Kendra.
Yes. Okay. So the catalyst that kicked all of this off was, I manage employees, and there was a particular employee that was difficult in the management process of things. It got very stressful to the point to where it was affecting my health physically and mentally and emotionally. I also had to take a step back, and I recognized that this felt very familiar to family relationships that I have and other relationships that I've had with friends and such in the past. And so talking through this with my therapist is like, look, something's got to change, because somehow I end up in spaces where I feel like I have to fix whatever the problems are that's going on because other people are just standing around looking in the sky or something. I don't know. And in going through that, it required me to stand up for myself at work. And then from there, got through a good piece of that. And then it's like, okay, this is next level. Spiritually, it felt like next level needed to happen. And that looked like going into my past with how I experienced my childhood. And being honest with how my childhood unfolded, how that made me feel, what I was still carrying with me at 36 that is part of my past, how I have romantic relationships, how I engage with people in general. Like, it made me look at myself real hard. And then it made me realize that boundaries were super lacking. And I decided, you know what? Your girl's gonna put herself first. And not in a fuck everybody else type of way, but in a fuck everybody else type of way. Cause I needed that time for me. Right. I had never not been in survival mode. I am the child of a single family home. And I have a younger sibling, and so there was responsibility that came with being the older child in the household. Right. And so I've been an adult, it feels like, since the beginning of time. And to just step back and stop being responsible for anybody else's shit but my own was a game changer. And I have not looked back. It required me being okay with losing relationships, even my mom. And you know, I was willing to do that because where I had arrived, I could not continue that way. It no longer served. It no longer. I felt like shit, and I was tired, and I was resentful, and I was angry, perpetually angry, and it was exhausting. Yeah. And I said, you know what? Lay these burdens down at the cross. Everybody take your shit back, and I am moving on with all of my things in my life. And from there, I focused on my weight and on just eating better and like getting my habits together, being intentional with how I spend my time, just all the things that make a whole person happier and healthier.
Yeah, because I know the last time I saw you, and like I always thought you were beautiful, of course, but you just seemed like happier. And I was like, she's glowing. I see her. Like, you have this really, really like great inner glow of like seemed like you were finding a level of peace. So I see that, and I'm like, okay, I want to eat from that table, you know. And like, well, the one thing that I hope you don't mind me going back to is that you talked about the boundaries, and you even having to let go of like relationships even with your parent. And I hope you don't mind, but can we talk a little bit about that? Because I hear, oh, well, thank you. I'm glad you will. Because I'm like, I hear a lot of people, they have, especially Black women, that sometimes they can have you can either have a really great relationship with your mom, or you can have a very contentious relationship with your mom. So just based on you saying that you have to kind of change the relationship, did you have like a pretty contentious relationship with your mother?
I did. I feel like I was put into a parental adjacent role because I was 8 years older than my sibling. And she was hardworking, and I like through the work of getting to the other side of all this, it went from being angry and feeling like it could have gone better and looked different to I accept you for who you are as a flawed human and you did the best you could. And we don't have to stay there, but we're going to have to operate in ways that work for both of us going forward.
Mm-hmm. And that's just in just general conversation or daily life, like
Period. Period.
Gotcha.
It was a point where, and I mean, I don't know another way of saying this. It felt like my mother relied on me more than she should have. Mm. And at one point, it felt like that was required of me because there were health things involved. But I just, I evaluated, I stepped back, I worked through this in therapy, and I came to the decision that I did not have to make myself accessible as she wanted me to be. Mm-hmm. If it was not comfortable for me. Right. Because it's still my life. Mm-hmm. And when you set up boundaries and you show up differently in life than the way that people have grown accustomed to you showing up, they take offense sometimes or they're pissed off because it's like, what the hell is the problem? You've been this way. Now all of a sudden you change. Oh, you're being sensitive. Like it can get ugly. Yeah. And support through that is so important. So yeah.
Because I definitely can relate, because not with my mom, but I remember setting, because 2020, was, to me, like, we were going to have to change our ways or we're going to get ran over by the world and our family. Mm-hmm. And so I remember when I've set a boundary, I literally had to physically say the word to my brother. I was like, I am setting a boundary that I won't do that, because and he was like, what? And I was like, I'm setting a boundary. Mm-hmm. that I won't do X, Y, and Z. And people, they do get really shocked. It's like kind of like they just malfunctioned or they just had that robot, like, I don't understand. I do not compute.
Cannot compute.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know what's going on.
Syntax error.
Right. Like, fix the formula. So, because you're right, just when you take back control of your life, mm-hmm. it's very powerful, and you don't even you thought you had control of your life, but then when you really take control, you're like, oh,
girl, it's like you've been in the passenger seat, so you thought you was in. I mean, you're in the front, and that's true, but you're not driving though.
Right. You might be like, oh, slow down or pat the drive, but you're not having that control, because you're letting everyone control you through the boundaries that you did not even set. You didn't even set, and you didn't know anything about boundaries. Because I came to a realization last year. I was like, oh, my family, we don't know boundaries.
I don't. The thing is that most people don't know boundaries. Most people do not know boundaries. It's not a thing that we were taught. It's not a thing that we maybe even felt like we were entitled to because we were just trying to make it.
Right. And I blame everything on slavery, because I feel like
I agree.
We had no boundaries, we had no privacy, we had nothing. We were just like survival mode. Yes. And I feel like
that's people still very much alive in us today.
Exactly. It's so alive. It's just so ingrained in the way we move and the way we act, especially when it comes to with our familial relationships. Yeah. Because I remember setting, like, just, telling my mom, actually, I realized she will try to help me build boundaries before I did. She was like, girl, go away. I'm like, but I saw that as a rejection. I'm like, you're rejecting me? Mm-hmm. But now just thinking about it, I was like, oh, she was trying to help me set boundaries without saying the words. Mm-hmm. I was like, I get surprised when old Black people figure it out before I do. I'm like, what?
It's like, oh, so you're hip. Got it. Wish you would have put me on game.
Right. Okay. I appreciate that. I see you. But they just call theirs in a different name.
Absolutely.
Well, I like that you managed to be able to set those boundaries and just kind of move forward. So tell me a little bit more about just what are you. I kind of lost my train of thought because I was just thinking about boundaries. But I forgot what I was gonna say. Let me go to my questions list. Hold on, girl.
Okay.
We'll edit this out or keep it in because life is real.
It is. It is.
Well, so now that you step back, so where would you put yourself, like, if you had to put your on a scale of 1 to 10, where would you put yourself, like, emotionally, spiritually, and physically? Where are you?
Like a number for each of those or an overall number?
Let's go each, girl. Let's be as thorough as possible.
Okay. So physically, I would say, and 10's the highest, yes?
Yes.
Okay. I would say physically, I am about, I'd say about a 6.5. Simply because my diet is not quite back to where I want it to be. I just got back from Dallas and there was a lot of sugar and bread and shit involved.
Yes.
And I don't typically do those things because I have a sugar addiction. And so I avoid those foods because they make me fat. And I don't want to be fat because fat's gonna kill me faster.
Yeah. Sure.
So yeah. So getting back on track with my eating, I've stayed pretty consistent with my working out. So I'd say 6.5 on the physical.
Okay.
And then on the, what was the other one?
Mentally.
Yes. Okay. So mentally, I'd say I'm at about an 8.
Oh, that's so lovely.
Yes. Okay. So here's the thing. The last couple weeks, there were like work things and like outside of work things. And it was just a lot of things swirling. And while I try to maintain a positive, uplifted spirit and I move through life like it's going to be okay, sometimes it doesn't get okay. And you have to be okay with not being okay. And I had that moment a couple weeks ago. And so it took me like a week or so to kind of bounce back and really get back in the groove of things, feel like myself, and just tap into like things from within. So like calling on my spirit team to support me and making sure that I'm grounded each day and doing my meditations and journaling things that I think about or the things that I'm prompted to journal about. Just staying on top of my things so that I stay okay. And so I feel real good. So 8 is where I'm at.
I like that. That's good. Okay. And lastly, because you're more, you consider yourself more spiritual. So where are you at spiritually?
I would say I'd say about a 6 because there's more that I want there. And when I think of spiritual, I also think that I fold in there like astrology and chakras and all the things, all the feels, all the woo of it.
The woo, yeah.
And so I've been working on learning like when readings happen, because I listen to different podcasts, different readers and things. And they talk about some planet is square to another or sextile to this and like how that affects things. So I'm trying to embrace that more and also get a solid bedtime routine in place so that, okay, so I start my day with a routine to get myself up, and before I give to the world, give to myself. I want to do the same thing in the evening. I want to wind down before I go to bed. So like just reflect, the gratitude thing, all of that. I want to do that regularly. And so a 6, because I have not done those things yet. And those are important to me.
Okay. Well, like when you were talking about just like your mental health and your spirituality, just like how did you start getting on these like paths? And you said the woo of it. So how did you find yourself start walking down the paths of the woo-woo-ness?
So how did I woo? I've always been kind of curious. I think the thing that really sparked it and kept it going was when I went to New Orleans and what is this, 2022? Child time. What is it?
Nothing. It's a construct.
It is. And life is not linear, but we're still trying to pretend like it is. Lord. Okay. So I think it was like November 2020.
Oh, okay.
And I went and I had a reading. And the woman that did my reading, she told me that she saw me on stage speaking to people to, improve their lives, things, that type of thing. And she said other things that were just kind of like, I could see that for myself. And she told me that the key to unlocking my spirituality and going on the path that would be more fulfilling for my life would start with meditation. She's like, even if you just do it 10 minutes a day, just do it and consistently. And I started doing it consistently. And this was when, the end of 2020 was trash.
It
was fucking trash. The whole year, but especially the end of the year. Like, I'd been hopeful all up through that thing. I mean, I had a trip to Turkey and Greece planned for my birthday. And it was in September we were supposed to go. And I was like holding out hope that maybe shit would get itself back together.
Right.
And when I didn't get that trip after other trips had been canceled before then, it's like something inside of me broke. No. And it was like, I can take no more disappointments. So yeah, but to get on a meditation journey and feel so much better with just spending time with myself. And then I ended up reading a book called The Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod, I think. And it talks about having a morning routine of silence, affirmations, visualization, exercise, reading, and scribing or journaling. And he said you could do 6 minutes of it, or you could do 60 minutes of it, or however long you got, but give yourself some time before you start your day and give to the world. And I have not looked back. When I don't do my routine, I feel crazy. With my routine, I feel like I am happening to life instead of life is happening to me.
Oh, again, going back to having those intentional moments.
Yes.
I like that. Because like I try to, because people always equate like spirituality with just like free flowing and I'm just gonna go with the wind. But I like that like people, because I feel like we need routine. Like routine helps get you on a little balance. And I think when we think routine, we equate it with like it has to be 3 hours, but like you said, 6 minutes of just giving yourself a moment to be grateful and settle in and ground yourself can be amazing.
Child, it's game changing. And then when you do 6 minutes, you're gonna want more.
You're like, oh, I like this. Okay. Yeah. Well, because I know the one thing I've been really curious about, like with people like going on spiritual journeys and just doing, because sometimes I feel like, because you mentioned something just like everything's going to be okay, but it can kind of be, what's the word I'm looking for? It can be deflecting of like the real world. Like sometimes it's okay not to be okay. Yeah. And I heard of the term toxic positivity. So can you elaborate on that for us? Just like, I've heard about it, but like with you and going through your life coaching, do you know much more about that and just how to like fight that and talk more on that?
I would say, so I'll give you an example just from recently, a thing that I was dealing with regarding work. There were stresses at work that felt reminiscent of the situation I spoke of previously, where it drained me mentally, physically, emotionally. And that terrified me. But here's the thing. It only kind of looked problematic like that, but it wasn't like bam in your face. And so because it wasn't bam in my face, I was like, okay, just keep on going. Things are going to get better. Just, keep doing your things. It's got to work itself out. Communicate, because management, we're coaches. We coach people to do the things that they need to do. And so it's like, okay, and we've done this and we're still right where we started. And so now I'm sick of this shit. And I don't think I had allowed myself like time to step back and say, okay, we've been positive about this. That's not working. We need to accept where we're at and how that makes us feel. So I had not taken that time to reflect. And when I didn't, I noticed I was waking up tired. Your girl gets 7 to 8 hours of sleep a night. I don't wake up tired. That's not my life. So when I wake up tired, I'm like, wait a minute, something's off. And I evaluated the fact that I've got my main job. I'm trying to do the coaching thing on the side. And then I also have with my main job some people that I'm training and the employee that's starting to go downhill all of a sudden. And it's catching me off guard because things have been flowing, things have been smooth, and now they're not. And so I had to tell myself, okay, how are we going to show up in a way that we can keep doing that? That's not going to take any more from us and give us chance to rejuvenate and replenish. And so I had to set boundaries with myself to not bite off more than I can chew, do only the essentials, rest in the evenings, stay hydrated, stay on my routine. I talked about it with my therapist, ugly cried about it, met with her. We usually only meet bi-weekly. I had to meet with her an additional week just to like process through the things and let myself feel the things. I cried for like 4 days straight. But so I felt better.
With the person at work, with the work situation, or was it just
it was everything. It was that, it was outside of work stuff. It was, I am now a coach and I have things that I'm wanting to achieve daily towards growing my business, because just the coaching of it is probably the easy part. It's the marketing and all the everything behind the scenes that keeps this thing rolling. And I want to be further. At this point, I want it to be further because I know what my energy level is like. When I show up from a main job, I can give them what I must. When I'm doing this coaching thing, it's like I have an endless supply. And so when the work thing was taking energy from me more than it normally did, it sucked away the energy I had from my stuff that I cared about the most. And I had to be okay with that. It took me processing that, being honest with myself about that, journaling, setting boundaries with myself, and just stepping back. I didn't do anything for like a week. And then I came back to it slowly. And I feel like I'm getting back into the swing of things and I feel real good. But I've got to be okay with the pace of things unfolding as life sees fit.
Yeah. What's harder, setting boundaries with other people or setting boundaries with yourself?
I think it depends on what it is that you are boundarying. For me in general, I think I do better at setting boundaries with myself than I think I do a better job of setting boundaries with other people than I do with myself. It's like I've gotten to a point in life where I refuse to let certain things be in my space. And so boundaries with other people is of the utmost importance. And obviously I love myself a whole lot more than I ever have before. And so boundaries with self are important, but I'm also still figuring out who I am. And the thing I struggle with most is food. And so when my last couple of weeks were rocky, I didn't cook a damn thing at home. I ate out because that was easy. It was what I could do because food had to happen. And I didn't have the energy, or at least that's what I told myself. I haven't gotten to the place where I can pull myself out of these places in the food arena. Like usually I keep my shit together workout wise and all the other things. But food seems to waver every time. And it's been a thing I've struggled with my whole life. I love food.
Me too.
Food loves my body. It hangs on tight.
It's like, hello, dear. I've been missing you.
So I must do a better job of that to, have the body and feel, because it's not really necessarily about the body, but feeling how I want to feel. Because I notice how I feel when I eat shit versus when I eat things that makes my body happy.
And it's like to the point, like, have you noticed when you eat something bad, you're like, this ain't gonna make feel that spot. And you're like, I don't give a shit. I'm going to do this.
I stopped and got a burger from McDonald's like 2 months ago and was like, I don't even care. I'm about to have it. I was eating it and I was like, you know your stomach gonna be upset later, right? You know you fucked up, right?
You're like,
I went ahead and ate it and washed it down with chicken nuggets, and I took that L. But you know what? Well, you know better, you do better. And so the next time you're feeling like that, it's like, well, the last time it went down like this. Do we want that again?
I was like, especially if your body ain't used to that good old McDonald's grease. You just like, oh. And you know, as soon as you swallow, you're like, this is gonna be a bad idea. But you just
literally, as soon as I swallowed it, I said, you know, you fucked up, right?
And it's crazy because I remember I went to a food therapist when I was working previously, and that motherfucker read me the filth. And he's like, it's like being fatness or like being overweight is a disease, and you have to work on healing the inner child that you're trying to appease and to appreciate and make happy. And I said, but I told him, I said, I love myself. He's like, oh, that's evident. Like the way you walked in here very nicely dressed, you like yourself, but he's like, you love yourself, but I don't think you like yourself. And I was like, shut the fuck up. You
don't know me.
You don't know me, doctor, person. And then I'm just like, oh, yeah,
he knows me.
It's like something about being seen and read in a loving way is so different. Yeah. Because like some people, they think they're reading you, but it's not coming across with the same love and intention.
Yes.
Man, girl, you just spoke to my whole spirit because like I had a moment yesterday like that, and I was coming up because we talked about like romantic relationships, and I'm like, I'm coming to grips that a lot of my romantic relationships weren't great, even though I knew them in the beginning. But it's also like I'm trying to decide, like, fuck it, we're just gonna be real. I have a really weird relationship when it comes to sex and relationships. And I be like, oh, I'm going to have sex because I really enjoy it. But then now I'm like, am I just having sex because that's how I validate myself? And I'm like, no.
Yeah, you got to have those conversations with yourself and then be willing to be honest with yourself.
Yes.
Because that's what it's about. Even the inner child thing. Like there's all kinds of versions of the inner child. I did some inner child work last year. And there's like the angry child, and like there's a sad child, there's an inner critic parent. There's all versions of the inner child. And I feel like it all kind of essentially is shadow work, dealing with the parts of you that you haven't felt were the most pleasant parts of you, and accepting them and not trying to like clean it up or put it away, but allowing it to be part of you while you are giving it what it needs so that it doesn't have to show out the way it has in the past. Because the way it showed out in the past served a purpose. It was protecting you or whatever that version of that was for you, but it doesn't have that same function, and it's still part of you. It just doesn't have to serve that same role.
Right. So how does your, like, kind of just thinking about what you said when you were 8, or not, you had a sibling and you were taking care of that person at 8. So how are you healing your inner child now, like working through that, since you felt like you didn't really have a childhood when you were young?
So some of the work that I did far-wise as healing the inner child also involved doing healing with what one woman called the mother hunger. There are parts of us that I don't want to say that don't develop, but there's just parts of us that aren't the way that would be ideal if things were ideal circumstance. I don't know who has an ideal circumstance. I don't feel like that's reality, honestly. But for me, like, I have coloring books, I have finger paint, I put on my rain boots and stomp in water puddles when it rains. I let myself have ice cream when I feel like it. Like, just not always trying to be the adultiest of adults. Allowing myself to be present in a moment, to enjoy a thing, and to let the little inside of me be like, hey, you know what? we've done a lot of work today. Can we just watch TV tonight? And respecting that.
How long did it take you to get comfortable with doing it for yourself?
I think that it kind of came naturally after I did the mother hunger, mother wound. There's lots of versions of it after doing that work, because that work required me to like write a letter to my mom that I never sent, but to just get it out because it was trapped in. So to get all of that out, and then to write a letter to my younger me and tell her all the things that she's beautiful and all the things that I will make sure she has going forward. And I remember there was a time last year when I don't even remember what the circumstances were, but the little in me was sad. And I just laid in the bed and I curled up and I hugged myself and I let myself cry. And then when I was done crying, I like watched TV or some shit. But I allowed myself that time because I needed that. Yeah. And I don't have parents that live in the city. So even if we were like the kind of people who drove over for a hug, that's not the setup. I gotta hug me because everybody don't have access to hugs, especially in a pandemic.
Oh, yeah. So starvation.
Yeah.
Real.
Yeah. So, just being compassionate with myself and being kind to myself, giving myself grace to not be perfect, to not always have to be on and show up the way that the world expects me. You're going to get whatever version of me I got to give you today. And that's got to be enough.
Yeah. And like
enough for me.
Exactly. I was like, just be glad I showed up today because let me tell you. Well, let me ask you this. I was going to ask you. Crap. I keep losing my thought process with you because this is a real. Just talking about like the mother hunger and the inner child work. Like, ugh. Oh, that's what I was going to ask you. What are some of the things, like the revelations that you've found out while healing? Like something that just shocked you? Has that been just even from therapy or just doing a journaling session? What was something that just like completely like blew your whole socks off?
I realized that all of my romantic relationships, I've been dating my mother.
Oh.
Every one of them.
Whoa.
Yep.
Jesus.
Yeah. It finally stopped fucking with me because I carried that one around for a minute. But I am the way that I have embraced the learning of the coaching and all of that, I have stuck my toe in the water of what dating from a coaching perspective looks like. And so being open to the idea of that and like exploring what a partner would look like and working on the limiting beliefs that have made me feel like maybe that person doesn't exist or isn't in the city or whatever the case may be. Just like being open and okay with new possibilities other than what I've experienced before.
Ooh, girl, I'm still stuck on how you said you were dating your mom.
I mean, it's a hell of a revelation to have.
Right. So can I ask, like, in those relationships, were you just looking for, did you know that? Okay, so going back, you said you were dating your mom. Were you looking for like that mom approval, that mom support? Were you just kind of, you sought out those behaviors and you didn't even notice?
I believe that honestly, it was the comfort of the behaviors. It felt familiar. But also it was dysfunctional, but I didn't know that word in this dynamic while I was in these relationships. Dysfunction was never on my radar. And you go through the motions and you do a thing. And here's the thing. I don't know about for you, but for me, we weren't taught to date. We weren't taught boundaries. So there's no boundaries around what dating looks like. So you just fall into whatever other people are doing or saying that they're doing to try to mimic a thing so it looks like what people call a relationship. That shit is dumb.
Girl,
that shit is dumb.
You're right.
I will not do it anymore.
Because I have no clue how to date. Like, I'm dating somebody now, and I'm just completely confused and befuddled on what the fuck to do with them.
You know what? I'm going to share. There's a podcast. Can I share another one?
Yeah, please. Okay. I'm supporting everybody. Girl.
Okay. So there's a lady named Sade Curry, and she has a podcast called Dating After Divorce. And I've been following her. I actually came across her on Clubhouse. I was in a room one time. She was talking some good shit. And I was like, you know what? I need to follow this lady and see what she's talking about. I've never been married and divorced, but you know what? If I can learn from a lady who has been, I feel like I got a leg up.
Oh, yeah.
And so this week she actually had a workshop thing. It was 3 days and there were videos and things, all that. And she talks about dating. And what I learned, because I started following her last year. And what I learned is the same way I've been intentional with my spiritual journey and intentional with the foods that I choose and how I choose to see those in my life, whatever the case may be. Everything is about being intentional, dating included. And so with dating, you don't just, float through the world like, oh, let's see, I'm sticky paper. Let's see where I land. Like, that's not how you want to date, because you're going to pick up a lot of bullshit.
The sticky paper got me, girl. You right.
And so she really
person, so this really helped. I was like, get all the shit if you sticky.
And so she really drives home the point of being intentional with your dating, like actually writing out a list of the values that you want in a partner, where these people hang out, the things that they're interested in, that kind of thing. She really gets you thinking about the things that you need to be intentional about going into dating, so that you're not just haphazardly dating, so that you're not dating somebody who lingers around for 6 fucking months and should have been gone at week 2. Because at the end of the day, what do you want? If you want marriage, you don't need to be dating, quote unquote, somebody that only wants to fuck, because that's not going to get you marriage. And so you got to be okay with being honest with what you want. And then you got to be honest. Oh, you have to have boundaries with yourself and hold yourself accountable. That's what I've learned from this whole information on the dating of it all. And so I'm working on applying it, because I want marriage. I don't know. Theoretically, I want marriage, but if it doesn't, I don't know, because I feel weird about the institution of marriage. And I don't know. I'm still deciding on that, but I do know for a fact I want a long-term life partner.
Right. I'm the same way. Like, that's how I feel. Like, I want the marriage, but because I believe in the legality of having, because if we're going to be together and sharing a life, we got to make sure all our ducks in a row and everything. But I'm not for the old traditions of marriage, right. Like, oh, you're mine and da 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 da. Yeah. No, we're each other's, and we're going to be a partner, and we're going to, have all the fun stuff. That's how I see it in my head. Absolutely. I want to have all the fun stuff, but also, want to be able to fight through the rough stuff too. Picking, it's like you definitely want to pick a partner who's willing to fight in the battle with you and not fight
fair. Because some people fight for the sake of fighting. It's like, but what are we fighting for?
I know, like, are you just trying to win? You want to assert some dominance? Then, baby, you picked the wrong person.
I ain't her.
Right. Because the way I see it, if I have to fight you for this or that, like, I don't know if I want to deal with it. But the toxic part of me is like, I want the fight.
And so then we would work on what the toxic part of you is trying to achieve, so that you don't seek that in places that aren't going to serve you in other areas of your life.
Okay. Yeah, well, we need to talk. You need to help me get my life together. Because I was thinking about that, because the revelation I had, I'll tell you what happened.
Okay. I'm all ears, sis. All ears.
It's funny because it's really awkward. So I have a little sneaky link, okay? And he hits me up. He sometimes like to come over when I work nights, so I take a little lunch break or whatever, and then he may want to try to come over and kick it. And so this is the first time he was trying to come over and kick it. And he's like, when you take your break? I was like, 1. And then I have my phone on work mode, so I don't get any notifications because I'm working.
Right.
And so he apparently, like, he called me, he said, I'm on my way. And then I was like, oh, I missed all of that. I was like, maybe it was God telling me not to be a thought tonight. And and so I'm sitting in my room because, like, I've been redecorating, getting it all oasis-y, you know, making it like sanctuary-ish. And so I hear a knock on my door. And so I hope you don't listen because I told him I didn't hear nothing. I heard something. I was like, I'm not expecting anyone. I'm not going to open this door.
I don't have company coming over.
Hey, I don't know what the hell. It's 1:00 in the morning. So I just went and looked at my room. It's like, I'm not going to be on today's news, baby. So I didn't know it was him, and I didn't answer. And so, like, he hit me up. He's like, yeah, I felt real awkward. And so I just walked away. I felt like he was very intrusive. And I was like, yeah, I get that. And then the reason what I'm trying to go to, the point I'm trying to go to, is I had that realization that I'm like, am I validating? And like, I know I'm better than this. I know that my validation is not set in sex, but I don't know. I don't know. Like, my brain completely is just confuddled. And so it's just been like having this realization about like my relationship with sex and how I compartmentalize the men. Like, if we start out in sex, I'm not going to go anywhere else because, like you said, like, if you just want to fuck, we ain't finna get married. So why should I even bring you out of the box with any other potential? I was like, you in that box. You in the sex box.
Never to be seen by the light of day.
Right, literally, because it's 1:00 in the morning. Even though we used to sneaky link in the morning because our schedules were the same. But anyway, I digress. I don't know. I don't know what my toxic trait is, like why I need that.
I wouldn't necessarily focus on the toxic trait. First of all, I would definitely, you need to decide, like, if you're wanting something long term, having sneaky link sex is not the path towards that.
I know, right?
And I know you know. I'm just gonna say it out loud in case you needed to hear it out loud from the thoughts that were swirling in your head.
And also, you know, the people who listening to this, you know, they might be having some sneaky link sex too and trying to figure out where they trying to go.
Listen, and the thing is sex is nice. It is.
It can be good.
I got, you know, I have a bag of dicks personally.
Yeah.
That's my jam because just with people, it requires like talking and them showing up, you know, pregnant could be a thing, STDs, people lie. This bag of dicks never does me wrong. Ever.
Side note to the bag of dicks, do you have a rose?
I don't, because I simply don't need another thing. My favorite one came off of Groupon like 8 years ago, and it's still going strong. I'm not buying shit else. I got a handful of them in a bag. I got some other things. Until one of those die, I'm not buying another thing.
Girl, I need a bag of dicks. I just been having this one little solo dolo thing that's
girl, get you a bag.
Get a bag. I want the bag and the bag. I want the bag of these and I want the bag of Benjamins.
You can have both. You can have both.
I want them all.
Listen, me too.
Girl, that's so funny. Well, oh shit, I just realized we were getting close to time. Okay. Let's see. Let's go to some fun stuff. Let's see. Okay. Let's talk about our inner childs. What do we do? Because you said you dancing in puddles and stuff. Girl, I went out and danced in the rain. It was fantastic.
Yes, it is.
I was like, I haven't done this since I was a little kid. I'm like, I need to do this more often.
Like literally anything. Just sit down one day and say, what did I do when I was a kid that I could do now that was really fun? And go do that shit.
I've been like dressing up, playing it. I didn't actually play in a lot of makeup because my mom was not a makeup person.
Girl, mine neither. Not for children. You don't get fingernail polish and you don't get no makeup. You a kid. Stay in a kid's place.
So now you put like nails on, or do you do any of these?
So I never. Okay. So I did love nail polish. Like I have a whole case of nail polish. It's ridiculous. I have all kinds of colors. But I just don't want to give my time to that anymore. And I have nice nails naturally. So I just let them do whatever they do. But I do, like last year for my birthday, I did a unicorn themed party. And so I had a unicorn onesie and a tutu, and a unicorn horn. There was like face jewels and everything. And everybody that came had to come some version of their unicorn.
That sounds like a My Little Pony party. It sounds awesome.
It could literally take any shape you want it to. And the next time I have a thing, like I want to do a game night or something, there's going to be a theme. Themes are fun.
Yeah, I bought Operation because I didn't play that as a kid. And it was on sale. I was like, I've always wanted to play it, so I bought it. And I played with myself and I had a good time.
Yeah. I even, so I had friends over one day. I bought some supplies for finger painting. This is in the thick of reading this inner child book. And I was like, hey guys, and here's the thing. When you find you a good group of people that are safe, you can share your journey with them. So it kind of helps it not feel like it's alone. Because it is an alone journey, but it doesn't have to be lonely.
Right, because we constantly forget that people are still going on journeys too. And they might need a hand.
Absolutely.
You don't have to climb all your mountains by yourself. Like you can really just reach out. But again, it goes back to how America is so individualistic and how we preach independence. But then when you think about it, like some of the most richest people in the world, they started out maybe with $1 million loan.
Yeah. And they got a team. They ain't alone.
Exactly.
They ain't alone. They fooling everybody.
Exactly. Either you stole it from somebody, or you ain't alone. I don't know anybody that literally started anything alone. Yeah. That just, like, oh, let's do this. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry.
I was gonna say, so when I was going on my inner child journey, I was like, hey friends, there's a group text of us. Hey friends, this is what what I've got going on. This is how I plan on working on that. I'm gonna do a finger painting party. If y'all are interested, it's gonna be on this day. And so then friends came over and we all finger painted. And everybody had a good time.
Yeah.
Just, things like that.
I've been wanting to have like a 90s party where we get like those little strings. You remember making those strings? The little keychains?
Yes, girl. Let me tell you, I used to sell them things.
Me too.
In middle school and high school, I was like, look, if you can't make it, I'll make you one and I'll sell it to you. Or I'll sell it to you, start it, and then you can finish it.
Me too.
Girl, I did this all my life.
You think so, girl? I was like, because I showed you to sell them like you want it you want the regular one, or you want that real, like when you did it with like 15 damn lines that I started for you.
I haven't done one of them things, and so do they still sell that string?
They do. I'm like,
I would love to do that.
Like, we need to do that. I'm down. Because that's relaxing. That's basically knitting for
it is.
Relax.
Like knitting for us.
Oh man, I'm gonna go to Hobby Lobby when I get paid. I'm gonna get them and try to see if I can still do it. Because starting it off was a chore. Like I was like,
it was, but I was good. I mean, you could get square, you could get the spirally one, the rectangle. You had choices.
Yes, I love doing the little ones where you do. This is the childhood portion of the podcast. Exactly. I love the ones where you do like the like you could do it like do it regular, then you do the zigzag. That's what I'm trying to say. The zigzag, girl. I'd be like, let me see what I can do this time. I think the biggest one I ever made had like 20 strings in it.
I don't know if I had the wherewithal to ever do one that big.
It really had a lot going on. I think it was like 10.
It was thick. Yeah.
It was thick. And yeah. And you be having them long ass strings. Just weaving, just
Yes.
That just made me happy. I'm glad we walked down this memory together.
Me too. I'm over here cheesing like a child.
Me too. I love it. Oh my gosh. That's why I'm like, I love the fact that we're that the one thing I have this goal for this podcast is just like to have these conversations about mental health and just be real, because I feel like sometimes, like even in friend groups, we might not even open up as much as we could, because we're not really taught, because I was thinking about the movies that we grow up with. We weren't really taught how to be good friends. No. We weren't really taught how to be good romantic people.
We weren't taught like, a relationship.
Like, and my family, like even though my mom and dad were married, they were just hanging on by the hem of his garment, trying to figure out how to make marriage work. Yeah. Considering they were born in the 40s and their parents were late 1900s, early 1900s, maybe 1910s. Yeah. And then their parents were slaves. Come on, like, good luck.
Yeah, survival mode.
Survival.
And being in relationship because that's what you had to do to survive.
Like, and the fact that we are individualistic, but we tout like marriage. I'm like, so you come on now. How are we gonna tout marriage when we're
math ain't mathing? I know
the math ain't mathing. It's just too much. It's too much. Yeah. So okay, so I'm gonna ask you maybe a couple more questions. What are we watching on Netflix?
Does it have to be Netflix or can it be any?
No, it can be any streaming device.
Okay. So then that means I must say Bel Air is my favorite right now.
Okay, I need to watch that. I've been wanting to just binge. Okay.
Unless you have like Peacock through cable, however that works. I don't have cable, so I had to pay Peacock a monthly little $5. But the season finale is this coming Thursday.
Oh, okay.
And so 10 episodes. It is Black excellence personified. It just is. It takes what the Fresh Prince did and it gives it a dramatic spin. It by no means is trying to mimic that. And it's so wonderful to see us rich and like addressing mental health and addressing LGBTQIA plus and just all the things. It addresses so much, and it's so beautiful to see all these chocolate people doing it. They doing a damn thing, and there's a podcast to go with it. And some chick, I don't know her name. I'm sorry, chick.
Well, it's a new girl. Okay, go ahead. Say, I'm sorry. I got excited because I was like, I know who's on it now.
I want to say her name is Crystal. She's one on the podcast.
Yeah. Did you ever listen to the Read podcast?
Okay. So is that who that is?
Yeah.
So here's the thing. I have heard some episodes, but I wasn't familiar enough with her voice to commit to thinking that's who it was. But at some point I was like, this feels like the girl on the podcast that Quita likes.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I'm excited because I was like, I wanted to watch it because some people were like, oh my God, it's not the same. I was like,
it's not the same, but that's not what we're here for.
Right. I'm here for the newness of it. And because everybody loved that trailer that guy did of the the serious version. I was like, I'm here for this. Give it to me. I want to see that. Put it in my veins.
He did it. He did it.
Okay. So anything else you want to share that we need to be watching?
And this is actually I think they're having their last episode soon. This Is Us has been on for years. It's like its 6th season now. But y'all, it's my weekly cry. Like it touches on things. I love seeing things where people get to be real.
Yeah.
And address real things. And I think they do it in a beautiful way. I would not binge watch This Is Us. I would space it out weekly or every other week. But I think it's a very well done show. And you fall in love with some of the characters. You are annoyed by some of the other ones. And, you embrace them the way you do family that annoys you. It's like, you're here, but okay, we'll do it.
I agree. I stopped watching it because it did hit too close to home in that first season. Because like right after that, my dad died, so I was just like,
yeah,
that part. But that acting, but the one thing I like about the show, because you're right, I like that the fat people aren't funny.
Yeah,
like she's funny, but she's kind of a bitch, and I like that because they like to play people who are bigger bodies. Like you're gonna either be the sidekick, or you're gonna be funny, or you're gonna be all three.
Yeah.
And it's not showing the realistic nature of like it's the ups and downs, you know, the having the disease of obesity and just suffering through all those insecurities.
Yep.
And you're not gonna be funny all the time. You're gonna be a
Nope.
fucking bitch.
Yeah.
And at first I used to couldn't stand her character, but now I'm like, I respect it because it's a real portrayal that it's hard.
Well, and if you continue watching, they're going to go into all these people's stories so much more. And you're going to understand how she got here.
See, I do know because she started emotionally eating after her dad died.
Mm-hmm.
So I got to that part. So I stopped. I watched the snippets because I love the characters. It was just breaking my heart. I was like, I can't be crying like this.
That's why it's a weekly cry. We do not binge watch This Is Us. We take it a bit at a time.
That's true. You know what? That's probably why I couldn't do it, because I did binge watch it. Like the first
time. Girl, you was trying to depress yourself.
I wasn't in touch with the emotions then yet.
I know. Let me tell you. And once you get in touch with them emotions, it hit on shit that you never saw coming. Let me tell you, I was watching Harry Potter, the first one, because I had a friend that had never seen them. So I was like, well, let's start from the beginning. Girl, Harry Potter had me crying because I saw things that I had never seen before. And it touched something inside me.
I had that. Okay, so I had that with this movie with speaking of Will Smith, After Earth. Did you ever see that movie?
Yeah. Did you read his book? He talks about that book.
I haven't read it, but I want to read it. Okay, I will.
I'll book it, as a matter of fact, because he will read it to you. And having Will Smith read you his story is next level. Do it. Do yourself a favor.
Oh, girl, you know, me and you both bonded on the Audible. I here. So, but with After Earth, I cried like a damn fool at the end of After Earth because I saw it when it first came out. It was good. No, it wasn't good.
It wasn't.
But it was beautiful. And no, I didn't get it. But if you rewatch that shit now, when you start going through some personal journey healing work, I literally started crying because I'm just like, it's just a metaphor about how you're in the shadow of your father, and then how your father sometimes is going to be silent, and you have to figure out your own path and try not to walk his path and independent. I was like, oh my God. Like,
girl, yes.
Actually really good.
Yeah. So it's funny because he mentioned that in his book, and he talked about the movie not doing that well because it didn't follow the formula he typically used for movies. Right. But that particular movie was about him healing his relationship with his son. And he did it in the way that he knew best how, which is fucking movies, because he's Will Smith.
Movie star.
And so that's why it was not like other things he's done, because it had a different purpose.
And I see that now, and actually rewatching it, I thought it was really good. Like I
didn't hate it the first time. It was not like, oh my God, I gotta see that again. But it was like, okay, I saw what we did here. I'm not mad at it, but I might never see it again.
Exactly. Like that's how it was me. I was like, it wasn't what I thought it was gonna be. But then if you go back and watch it, it's a bop. It's actually pretty good.
I just might do that this weekend.
Yeah, give it a try and see what you think. And also the Adam Project. Oh, girl. The Adam Project. Huh?
Where's that streaming?
It's on Netflix.
Okay.
And it's with Ryan Reynolds. And you know Ryan Reynolds is basically like white Will Smith. And he has a way about him.
I've never heard anybody say that. That is hilarious.
But when you think, because you know they have their cadence, they have like woo the things that they do as Will Smith and Ryan Reynolds. And so it was nice to see Ryan Reynolds actually kind of play a little bit more subdued version of himself. And girl, bitch, when I tell you, when it goes to the end.
Okay. I'm intrigued.
Sobbing. Yes. Sobbing. Okay.
You know what? I could go for a good cry. I could.
Okay. Hey, if you need a good cry. Because it wasn't like a sad cry. It was just like.
Yeah. Oh, girl, I love happy tears too.
Yeah.
I embrace tears. And that's one thing that I feel like I'm creeping back into before. We can stay fun after this. But
no, you good.
I remember like growing up and being shamed for crying, like being told that I didn't have a reason to cry or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
And so I was very resistant to crying or allowing myself to be emotional for most of my life. Right. But I've always cried. Like if I'm happy, if I'm sad, if I'm mad, tears fall out of my face. I don't have control over it. Sometimes it drives me crazy because it's like, oh, this is really bad timing. But
I'm
now
not sad. I'm not hurt.
now I just allow myself to cry, and it just feels so good to have permission to cry without being shamed.
Yes. I like my childhood trauma comes from dropping stuff. Like my dad used to always like, you dropping shit all the time. And the one thing I had to come to like my food therapist, he told him, he's like, that's abuse. I was like, what?
Yeah.
And I was like, because I would never think of my dad as an abusive person.
Right.
But he, he had alcoholism, but he was like a happy drunk. But those are levels of abuse, just like making you feel anything that you're triggered from is from an abusive situation.
Yeah.
And coming to grips with that, I was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh. And so like I had to like reconcile, like, oh, my dad was abusive. What the fuck? What else was abusive in my life?
Yeah.
And going down those rabbit holes,
woo, girl. I know. I know.
Because we talk about it. And so, but I feel like the hardest part, though, people like you feel like you have to stay in it. But I've come to the point where I'm trying to grow and heal, that I can be in it. I can acknowledge it for what it did and how it hurt me.
Yeah.
And then moving out of that has been, it's a weird, like, I don't know if you felt this. Have you ever felt like you feel kind of guilty? Like you should be in it a little bit more than you are, but then if you can roll out of it, you're like, I'm good.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that has been, so I live an okay life, financial wise. But I want more. I've always wanted more, but I only last year allowed myself to say, I can go bigger than just these little corporate job salaries that they do. Okay. And I decided last year 7 figures. But before, I never would have allowed myself to think that little old me, could go out in this world and make 7 figures. But, and I think that's because one, I don't know nobody that's made 7 figures that I know of. Like personally. And then like, what does that look like when you're there and the people that have been around aren't there too? And so then there's like am I afraid to actually be successful because of what that means for everything else that's around me? How is that going to change everything?
Right. Oh, girl. And I feel like I don't know if it's just because as women or Black women, do we have a fear of that? Because like I see these women going out and getting, and I like, but sometimes I'm like, before they've gone out and gotten it, they're at our level.
Absolutely. Everybody has been at a low before they are at the high that they're at.
Exactly. Because I just last year, because at first I was like, I want to do this podcast for fun, but then just because I didn't know, I was scared to say the fact that I wanted to be successful. I wanted to be good. I wanted to eventually to get to the upper echelons. I want to have their level of exposure, and it's kind of hard, like saying that because I feel like I'm not supposed to. But I'm like, no, I want that. I want it all. Like I was listening to Ali Wong, the comedian on Netflix. I love her shit.
It's hilarious.
Her new special is hilarious.
I haven't seen it, but she is fucking hilarious.
Girl, so add it to your list. That shit, I listen to that. That's like my comfort show. I have so many comfort shows. Ali Wong is like my comfort comedian right now. Okay. Because I'm like, some of her things she's been through, I was like, I've done it. But she said, I want it all. I want the career, I want the husband, and I want a side piece. I don't necessarily want the side piece. I want all. I want to live on a farm, but be able to go out to the city. Yeah. I want to travel in the van, but still have my home. I want it all, baby. I want it all.
And if you allow yourself to believe that you can, and then you actually do actions in the direction of making those things a reality, it will happen.
Yeah. It's consistency. And that's why I like being consistent. And those are the things consistency and follow through has been the things I've been working on the most.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like,
those are game changers.
yeah, because like I'm like I gotta be consistent, but then I actually gotta finish because like
Yep.
I have this like fear of finishing things because I'm like, what if it's bad?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what if it isn't?
That's what done. One thing I have learned in gaining the confidence to put myself out there as a coach is done is better than perfect.
Right.
You can always go back and modify and revise, but done is better than perfect.
Yeah. Because you did it.
And perfect will never get out there.
Exactly. That's one thing like me and I say her name, Ogechi, because I've said her name on the past, she knows. So me and Ogechi talked about that and like we're trying to get the book out. We got the book out and it's doing okay, but I was like, girl, we just have to be consistent. We have to be proud that we did it. We finished it. Because most folks have the idea and don't even complete it. Don't even execute it. So I'm proud of us just for doing it.
Girl, I am too. I bought my niece a copy and sent it to her.
Thanks, girl.
Absolutely. That and the workbook. She's 3. She loved it.
Yes. Shameless plug. Get your copy of Adventures of Ada out now on Amazon. A workbook included. Hey, get it.
Beautiful book and workbook. Yes.
Thank you. Okay. So I could talk about this all day. Okay. So Marvel or DC?
Hands down, Marvel. Why does DC keep making things?
I just don't know, girl, because I was watching The Peacemaker, and so another thing that I'm waking up again. I know we said it was gonna be 70 minutes, but this is good content.
I say I ain't got no anything. I'm just gonna watch TV when we get done.
Right. Okay. So the one thing about DC and Marvel, they are stuck on this white supremacy, man. They are stuck on this white supremacy, and I cannot unsee it anymore. Because I was watching The Peacemaker, and I'm like, why are we watching a show about this man-child and who kills people? But if it was a Black person, we wouldn't give him any type of this level of remorse or like this kindness, or because I was watching. Okay, so the guy that I'm dating, he's a white king or whatever. And so he's like, he's just a guy. He's just kind of a kid. I was like, no, he's a grown ass man who's got a mentality of a child. We do that with whiteness. We give whiteness all the childishness shit that we possibly can. But when it comes to Blackness, they're adults when they're 12. That shit makes me mad.
Yeah.
So sorry.
It's been the history of things. Like they've had to grow us up faster, Emmett Till, to justify the actions, the atrocities that happen. They have to be able to justify it.
Yeah.
And so they have to give it a worse mask than what it is.
Yeah, and I can't unsee things. That's one thing I'm glad that we're seeing more of us back to like the Black excellence. Seeing more of us on the screen is like, oh, girl, it's like bringing down the veil of all these misconceptions that media puts on us, that whiteness has put on us, that we have put on us. Because I know I'm definitely guilty of like seeing Black people and be like, then I'm like, where the fuck that come from?
Well, limiting beliefs and somebody else's voice in your head.
Yeah, and it's internalized racism in my own mind. Yeah, and like internal prejudice that we have. Yeah. Like I think about like all the phobias, like because I used to have like a real like sometimes I would have a visceral reaction to like Lizzo and her showing off her body. Yeah, and then I just realized that I'm internalizing whatever that phobia that has been placed on me and thinking that it can't be beautiful. And now I said, you better work, bitch.
Yes, girl. I am always like, listen, girl, I could never comfortably put that on and be in these streets, but go you for being the bitch that can.
Exactly. And I'm like, and I see it differently because I used to like see it in a negative perspective. And like, I don't even see the flaws. I don't like, okay, satellite and okay, she's still fine as fuck. Like, come on. For me. Exactly. I love it. And the one thing about our phobias, the phobias have a tendency to dehumanize people. And all you see is that phobia that you have. Like you see fatness, but you don't see that she's actually still a human. I hate when people say she's fine for a big girl. Like she's fine because she's a woman. Yeah. And she's a fine woman.
She's fine because you found her fine. Period.
Right. Why it has to be these damn caveats? Like, can I stand a caveat? And I fight my own. I still do it. So if you're still doing it, people, it's okay. Just fight it. Just be aware.
It's a never ending journey that we are on to just be better versions of us walking each other home.
I like that. Being better versions of ourselves, walking each other home. Yeah. Like, that's why I tell my brother, like, I was also talking to this other white man, and he was like, white man. And he was talking about there's no such thing as a patriarchy. I was like, if you don't get the fuck out of my face.
Sir, have you looked the fuck around?
Right. My brother said that. There's no, I said,
nigga. Please look around. Please look around and relinquish your manness.
Right. I was like, you talking to a whole woman here, nigga. Like, what are you talking about? Oh, girl. Okay, we can go on all day, but I'm gonna wrap this up. Okay. I got one last question for you, and this is my question I asked everybody of color who identifies as a Black person. I stole this off of Brown Sugar, and when she said, when did you first fall in love with hip hop? But my question to you is, when did you finally fall in love with your Blackness?
Let us see here. I think this might sound crazy. I don't care. Whatever.
Go for it.
I think that it happened. Like, I've always been proud to be Black, and I've always very much been Black. Like, I've never been like, let me, so I grew up predominantly white. Like, all the schools I've ever been to, everybody was almost white. And I grew up in Knoxville, so there's not much diversity. So we didn't have like Asians or Spanish people or any of that. It was Black and white, but mostly white. So I don't know if I ever had the chance to fall in love with my Blackness being in so much predominantly whiteness. And so I would say when I started doing the work on myself and loving me more, embracing the Blackness more, and seeking out beautiful Black things became more priority, like in art and things like that. So I'd say in the last couple years.
I can feel that.
Yeah. And, you know, I don't want to say that I feel like I've been cheated, because, I mean, my experience has been mostly white. But, you know, it does leave one to wonder what else there is that they have not done yet or experienced yet that would be an amazing experience for them that is just Black. Like, I think that my big thing is going to be when I finally plan and go on a trip to Africa. I want to go for like a month. Yeah. And I want to go to different places, and I want to experience the food and the culture and everything. Nice. And so I think that's going to be like I know I'm going to cry and be like, oh, home.
Yes. No. Another random question. Would you ever move to Africa?
You know, I am not opposed to living somewhere else. I don't know. I haven't visited Africa, and so I don't know where I would live there. But I'm not opposed to any place that feels like beautiful and safe and affordable. Yeah.
Yeah, same. I
want to retire abroad. I do not want to live in this country for the rest of my life.
Girl, what you said. I'm like, I told Ogechi, I said, what I want for this book to happen, and I'm learning to just speak things and write things to manifest. I want to get these books to the point where they're going to be a series, and that all I need to do is write these books from fucking Mexico or wherever, sit it in, and we can just live. Because I'm tired of here. I'm tired of America. Like,
I'm tired of the whole structure of all the things we've been doing because that's what we were told to do.
Exactly. Somebody said that somebody was like, most people don't understand, don't know the definition of socialism. And this guy was like, it's slavery. And then this other guy's like, no, that's capitalism. They just decided to pay you. And I was like, nigga, you ain't said nothing but a word. They just paying us. Because if you listen to, I think I told you about this. I'm supposed to end this. I'm sorry. But the 1619 Project, if you listen to that podcast, they basically talk about how corporate America is basically structured like a plantation. I was like, get the fuck out of here. I need to get out.
Girl, let me tell you, I have looked around at my job and, being a mindset coach, I work on how I say things and allow things to be in my body. And so currently it's not like, oh, this damn job. It's like, thank you, job, for being the opportunity that allowed me to step into coaching.
Yeah.
Thank you for being my first investor.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I like that.
Shit running while I get this other shit going.
Right.
So yeah,
After 2020,
I can't keep doing things the way we've been doing it. I want to early retire at 50. I want 8 figures, and I want to work wherever I want to work.
Yes. Yeah, because after 2020 and how they treated us, I was like, oh, y'all just don't give no fucks. I'm like, I'm done. I'm not gonna. I'm going to work.
For what?
Right. For who? For what? For nobody. Like y'all don't care. And I'm with you. I'm like, I'm working. This is gonna supply me to make books, write my books, do my podcast, whatever else I decide to do. Yeah. But y'all ain't finna get my spirit. That's one thing y'all ain't finna get. Nope.
Yeah. Well, and so like I don't know if you've read Cicely Tyson's book. It's called Just As I Am. Mm-hmm. And in there, she talked about working at a job that she'd only been there for a little bit, but there was the woman that was retiring, and they gave her like a gold watch or something. And she'd been there for like forever, like decades. Right. And she said that everybody around her was cheering, and she was just looking on like, ain't no way I'm staying nowhere this long and getting a gold watch as the consolation prize.
Right, considering she put in all her blood, sweat, and tears. Where's my check at?
Child, this watch? I could have been done bought this watch and quit.
Right. If that's what I was waiting on, and I could have bought this for my little ducats and pieced on out.
Yeah. So, girl. Yeah. And reading books like that is just inspiring because when you're young, you think you got to have shit figured out. You think there's supposed to be certain timelines that are met. It gets greater later, per Bevy Smith. She says that, and I don't want to take credit for her words, but it gets greater later. And the old people get older and they find things that they like and don't like. And then they create, like people are 30 and 40 and 60 starting things. Yes. And the most successful they've been because now they know what it is that they need to be here doing.
Exactly. I told my mom, I said, Mommy, if you ain't dead, then there's still time. I said, you can do whatever you want to. And I tell my brothers that because they're in this rut. And that's like one of the reasons I love talking to men on this podcast about getting their mental health struggles. Just so my brothers know, I said, there's niggas out here who are really struggling and they're trying to work with it. And you're not the only one. And this is the tips. And so I'm like, you ain't dead. Like y'all in your 40s, y'all Black, you're gonna look 40 for at least 20 more years. Come on.
Like time is on your side, young man.
Come on, and the melanin. Let's do it. Like I'm like, I be trying to like, let's figure this out, let's save some money. But I'm like, but that's also another boundary that I had to set, that I cannot want more for them than they want for themselves.
Cannot, because you only gonna wear yourself out.
Girl, I do that every time. That's why I can't go back to Memphis, girl. I can't. My mama told me, she said, you can go home. It's okay. I was like, thank you, mama. I can't come back here. I can't. She said, girl, I already know. I might be coming up there with you. I said, I'll take you, mama, but I can't deal with these grown-ass men. They older than
me. Yeah. And boundaries, child. You gotta have them to respect yourself and to have the things the way you want them.
Right.
That's the only way to make it happen.
You're right. Well, girl, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to wrap this up. I want you to tell everybody where they can find you. I know you're going to, the bio, everything's going to be linked in the description, but go ahead and let everybody know where they can find you and support and whatever.
Yes. So if you're interested in finding out how we work together, just go to my link, chatwithyamz.com. Yams with a Z, chat, CHAT, with WITH, Yams, YAMZ.com. I can also be found on Instagram, Coach Yamz, spelled with the Z.
Mm-hmm.
And the link in the Instagram will take you to the Facebook and whatever else I have out there. The booking link as well. It'll take you to all that. Yeah. It's all linked together some way.
It's all, we will figure it out. We'll make sure to support that. And I'm serious, girl. Just let me know when you're ready. I think I'm ready.
I'm about to say, it's not when I'm ready, sis. It's when you're ready. I was you go to Chat with Yams and you pick a time on my calendar and we can talk.
I will do that because, I want to get my shit together or at least start somewhere. But anyway, thank you so much, Yamana, for coming and talking to me. I think this is a great conversation. We ran a gambit and I learned a lot, and just being able to talk to a friend and just be open and vulnerable was amazing.
Yes. Thank you for having me. Thank you for coming with good conversation because, everybody ain't able.
Right.
Yeah, I had a good time.
I'm glad, and we definitely want to. Hopefully, you can come on again. I know we talked about doing a video session soon.
Yeah.
But again, this is your girl with cosines and tangents. Your girl saying a win with Yamana, and as always, I love y'all and goodbye.